Our weather pattern is about to dramatically shift as we go into next week. Now, as we go through this week, we still have this Arctic blast coming through for the south and the southeast. Extreme cold coming through for the Midwest, the Great Lakes, through the Northeast. Now, this is still bringing a chance for a clipper, a snowstorm coming through. Latest trends has been shifting further and further north, but extreme wind chills will be coming through with all these winds. But after that, we're going to see a shift, and this is going to bring storms from the Pacific all the way across our subtropical jet, even across the central U.S., bring severe weather, bring big snowstorms as well, and another cold blast coming through after that. Now, where that's going to be, I'm going to show you in this video. Now, first, a quick update to everyone that is still without power. Everybody been in freezing temperatures all week, and some just a few days, but most of them all week. Kentucky still 28,000 without power. Mississippi, 46,000 without power. Even Louisiana is at 7,000 without power. Florida is at 18,000 without power, and it's the coldest day that's just breaking record books all over the place, and yesterday. But we also have North Carolina at 4,000, Hawaii's almost at 4,000, New York at 2,200, and South Carolina at 2,000. So here's our calendar for February, everybody, and we have another Arctic blast coming through for this weekend for the 6th and the 7th. But once we go from the 10th and 11th, once we go from next Wednesday and on, this is going to start bringing an extreme weather pattern change, and it's going to bring more storms and big snowstorms as well, mostly for the central and the northern U.S. I will show you. So we'll go through the data, and I'll update you on the data and the pattern, everybody. Never been here before, make sure you subscribe. I am all year long. I am a studying meteorologist still. Haven't got it done yet, but I will. And what you see in the data, you will see in the models later on. So when you look at your Pacific North American pattern, this lets you know which side of the country is going to be a deep trough or a high ridge. Now, the high ridge, of course, is high pressure, so a warmer scenario wherever that ridge is. And you can see as we go towards the 9th of February, as we go into that next week, like I showed you, that we're going to go towards that negative phase of our PNA, our Pacific North American pattern. So you can see here, when you're in a negative phase of a PNA, you start getting that deep trough along the west. This is where storms are going to start coming across. I'll show you. And we get that high ridge from the central to the eastern U.S. So this means a warmer scenario over here and a colder scenario along the west. So when we look at our Arctic oscillation, our RAO, this lets us know about the cold air coming down into North America. And you can see we're going to stay in this cold blast that we're in all the way until that time. And then the cold air is going to start retracting back. Now, you don't see the cold air going way up here into a big positive. You still see it at a negative, but it's right by neutral. So this puts it right along the central and the northern U.S. So this is where the cold fronts keep coming through, but this is where you have the interaction of the warm temperatures and the cold temperatures, bringing severe weather and bringing extreme snowstorms, because you get a lot of precipitation pulled up from the Gulf. Also, so it's not biased, you can see up here on top the colors and what model that color represents. And they're in good tandem together. This is going to start lifting away as we go by next weekend and beyond. Matter of fact, when we look at the long-range data of just a couple of them, the GFS and the European are most accurate models. Now you can see with the GFS that the cold air does stay all the way until that time. And then once we hit around next Wednesday or Thursday, it could come back again, but more than likely will start pulling away. So it was still an iffy one. The update this morning shows that it dramatically shifts further towards the north. This is going to bring a warm up across the southern and the southeastern U.S. and keep the colder temperatures across the northern half of the central U.S. and the northeast, but it'll start coming through from the western U.S. And this is where you're going to start getting y'all snowfall. Even when you go by the European and you check the latest update, you can see that cold front coming through all the way until about the same time, and then start pulling away. The latest update this morning dramatically shifts even sooner, showing an even sooner pattern of these warmer temperatures coming through, and maybe a little smaller dip coming through later on. That's not trending, but it's still guessing at the long range. But you can see the change from before to how it's a little bit sooner now, where we're going to start coming into this warmer anomaly. Also, the last piece of data to show you the PNA, the Pacific North American pattern, where I showed you where you get that deep trough, that high ridge as we go into the middle of February right there. Look at the long range with the Euro. You can also see we might stay in that weather pattern. So as the cold air starts pulling away later on, the snowstorms are going to go away and we're going to go right into our severe weather. And once again, this represents a deep trough on the western U.S. all the way to the Four Corners, and then a high ridge all the way from the Central Plains going towards the Great Lakes. And you can start to see some of this come out in the models as well, and they're still going to shift around a little bit. I do believe I will show you. So when you look at your 500 millibar vorticity, I love this. It shows rotation in the atmosphere, and that's everything you really want to look for is rotation. You can see you have an upper level low over here just spinning around over there. You can also see this very high ridge on the western U.S. that's bringing that above average warm up. And you can see that deep trough coming through all the way for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then for the Great Lakes in the Northeast as you're going from Friday into Saturday. That's bringing that cold front with it as well. And maybe that little bit of that 1 to 3 snow across Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio Valley. That little bit of snow that's coming through, that storm has weakened down. But you can also see that as we go into the weekend and next week, this is where the warmer temperatures, this is where that above average high ridge is going to start shifting to the east. And all these storms that you're going to see rotating around, all these low pressures just rotating around, are going to start shifting across the U.S. So you're going to be in a warmer pattern all the way for that Monday and that Tuesday. But then as you go through that Wednesday and Thursday, you could get a storm system meeting up with the colder air. This is where you have that deep trough coming through and that high ridge of that negative PNA, showing multiple storms are going to come across as we go through this weather pattern. So first, as you go through for tomorrow into Wednesday, showing an even further towards the eastward push where this cold air meets this precipitation, bringing that 1 to 3 incher. It has shifted dramatically to the east towards West Virginia and showing that there's chances for mixed precipitation during this extreme weather pattern. Then as we go to this weekend, we're going to get that colder air coming through. We could get a little mix over here for North Carolina. It's just a little glaze of something, not a lot of anything. Showing that low pressure forms way offshore. It's not going to bring another storm. It's right past 4 days, but still that's showing something very weak. I don't think it's going to dramatically change anytime soon. Then as we go into the weekend, we have that other trough coming through for the Great Lakes through the northeast of that colder air. Then we have that big warmer pattern shifting across. And you can see this storm going all the way into Canada where they're getting snow, but it's warmer all for the U.S. as you go through for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So then we're talking about a possible system form up. And this is one of multiple. Remember, they're going to start draining across. So this is by Wednesday. This is where you still have cold air coming down, even over here across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. But you have all this warm air and all this precipitation getting pulled up from the Gulf while it's doing this. And you can see how it builds a storm at that time. Now, this is going to bring severe weather, bring damage and winds and other threats, and also see maybe a little bit lower as you go past that, where it could be even more of an extreme weather pattern. That's because these low cold fingers coming across, but it's a warmer pattern. Now, once we reach around the 14th or 15th, this should be around the last ones that we're going to see go deep towards the U.S. After that, everything should start staying further towards the north. And you can see this when you look at your temperature anomaly. You see the below average temperatures you're dealing with for today. It will stick around and you'll have it come down again from Wednesday into Thursday, all the way down Florida, but not as extreme as what you're getting now. And for Friday, all the way through the East Coast, and it will be extreme again for the Great Lakes and the Northeast as you go through for Saturday and Sunday. That's where the really cold wind chills will come in. But next week, this is where you get this above average bubble transitioning across a little bit and bring in warmer temperatures. Now, this isn't going to bring no high 80s everywhere, and it's not going to stick around. You're going to have cold blasts that's going to come through, and then you're going to have warm-ups throughout the day. So you're still going to get these fronts coming through, but they're going to stay further towards the north. You're still going to feel them in the south, but nothing like what you're feeling now. Now, this weekend, you have one more blast before it starts doing a warmer blast, if that helps. So here you go for Thursday morning. Now you have the cold blast coming back down again, and it's going to bring cold wind chills. You're going to feel this all the way towards the south, and you're going to feel like single digits across the Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, out through the Northeast, where you could feel negative wind chills. For Friday, it's going to transition towards the East Coast again. You're going to be in that warmer bubble across the central U.S., and you're going to be colder along the western U.S. with a cold wind chill moving through again for Friday, everybody. Now, Saturday and Sunday will be those extreme wind chills for the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the Northeast. So here it comes for Saturday. You can already see the freezing temperatures won't be all the way towards the Gulf, but the wind chills will be extreme, anywhere from -5 towards -20 or -30 degree wind chills moving through. And for Sunday, that will transition towards New England. Also feel it over here towards the southeast. And the wind chills once again for Sunday. Now, that's extreme wind chills moving through. Those are going to be leaving after that. And this is the weather pattern you're going to see for next week. So you're going to see these warmer temperatures coming through across the south. You're going to get those 60s and 70s, even some of the 80s coming back down for southern Florida. But you're going to start cooling down for the western U.S., coming across Midwest to Great Lakes, out through the Northeast. But we will have these cold fronts that come through every morning. But you can see the warmer scenario that hangs around for a while for the southern U.S. Then as we go through for our highs for Wednesday, you can see it warms right back up again. A lot of people over here across the north will stay frozen, and across the west for this weather pattern. And once again, this is that same setup where we could have chances for a snowstorm over here across the Great Lakes. Also more snow coming in across the west. Maybe some more atmospheric river flooding. While this pulls up very warm temperatures and a lot of precipitation and potentially bring some severe weather. This is next Wednesday. And even next Thursday, look at this. Staying warmer scenario across the south and the southeast. We still have people that's going to stay in frozen temperatures. Remember, we've still got 6 more weeks of winter, everybody. Friday, cold blast coming through. It's going to bring more freezing temperatures with it and more wind chills, everybody. So it's still going to stay on that colder scenario of these cold fronts all the way to next weekend. I think this portion right here, this is next Friday. I think this might move a little further towards the north. But thank you for your time, everybody. That's your weather forecast of what's happening as we go through the first half of February. Now, before I go, a quick word from our Father, everybody. And remember, everything has a season, everybody. So those that like the cold, you're still going to keep the cold. Those that want that early spring, it will be coming. Everything has a season. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. Amen. I will see you again for tomorrow morning, God willing. And above all glory does go to God, our Father in heaven, Yahweh. And I always hope He keeps you safe every single day of your life. And forever. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Have a great day, everybody. Happy Monday.